Hi. I'm often asked the question in my work as an intuitive, as a life and relationship coach and a love mentor, what in the world is a covert narcissist? And what do you do if you suspect that you've been involved with someone who has this particular set of behaviors? A covert narcissist, the way I'm defining it right now, is a situation where a person is far along on the spectrum of narcissistic behaviors, but as the name covert narcissist implies, is even harder to spot than the overt narcissist. The overt narcissist is easier to see because they're almost always blaming everybody else for everything that's gone wrong in their lives. They feel oppressed very often by life, by business, by the government, by personal relationships. It's always everybody else's fault, and they almost never will accept very much, if any, responsibility for whatever seeming missteps have occurred. Whether it's a personal relationship or a business or a career issue, or where they're living, or the apartment house management, or the bank they deal with, you name it, they've got issues. A covert narcissist is slightly different in the sense that even though most of what he does is for show, is to create a certain image, is to make everything look like it's absolutely marvelous, like he has a totally perfect life, the motivation is very similar. And the motivation is to get the battery charger supplied to keep his ego elevated so that he doesn't have to face too much the pain, the suffering, the sorrow that he really carries around from a very wounded childhood experience where there was a definite lack of nurturing and caring and stability that would have allowed him, or her as the case may be, to have developed a secure bond with the primary caregivers. How does a covert narcissist show up in society? Well, let's say on the positive side that they often are regarded as pillars of the community. They often spend tremendous amounts of time, often in very high visibility situations, where they're community leaders in one way or another. They may be leaders in their church. They may do a lot of very good things for the purpose of being well thought of, being highly respected and admired. They may win certificates of appreciation for donations they've given, for time they've spent, for talents they've devoted. So they do positive things in the world. They really are often very cherished members of their society. The problem becomes if you happen to be one of the individuals who trigger the old wounds that they carry, and they turn on you. And they can be extremely abusive, extremely angry, extremely sarcastic, cutting, embarrass you within the two of you because they will try their best, usually unless it's within the nuclear family, to create the impression on the outside that they think you're wonderful. Because if you're part of their family, they regard you as part of themselves to a certain extent, and they have an attachment. Also, they don't want to blow their cover that they're capable of the kind of nasty, abusive, gaslighting behavior that they are. So, for example, if you are married to a covert narcissist, and you, in your life with him, have started to live with him and see him on a daily basis, the familiarity may be enough to trigger old wounds that he may have had towards his mother or his father or someone else, where there was a lack of healthy bonding, a lack of trust, and they may start to turn on you. They may become extraordinarily hypercritical. They may be very demeaning of you. The affection and love that they seem to, that is just a part of it. If you are not the victim of their or the target of their wrath and their criticism. But let's say you've had a child or two with them. One child usually is the apple of the person's eye, and they idolize this child, and the child can do no wrong. That's the golden child. If you have another child, however, that child may be reminding him of the parent who he has the unfinished business with, and that child will be scapegoated. That child will often get blamed for everything from a war 10,000 miles away to government taxes, to the weather, to whatever it is that's a frustration in his life. That child is definitely at risk for absolute abuse, physically, emotionally, mentally, and or spiritually. So if you, as the mother of this child, want to protect this child, which is certainly part of your responsibility in life right now, you may need to seek outside help. You may need to go to agencies. You may need to go to a domestic violence shelter. There are all sorts of supports built into the communities, and I would strongly suggest that you look into professional help. This video is not ever designed to take the place of professional care and guidance, because I don't know you, I don't know your individual circumstances, and so I would never, ever presume to overextend the purpose of a video. Having said that, I would also tell you that I've worked with families where the man who was doing the covert narcissistic behavior was regarded as an absolute delight in the community. He was on mayor's committees, he was working very hard actually and effectively to, let's say, revamp certain aspects of the city government. And he was being honored, and he was being given a beautiful plaque for his efforts. And the family was expected to sit in the front row proudly at his side. And they had to hear all these accolades about him, while the reality was that he was running roughshod over them at home. He would come home, he would often get drunk, never drank in public, but only at home, have many more cocktails than his body could handle, and when he would get drunk, he would become abusive. He would deride each member of the family, he would put them down, he would tell them that it was them that held him back from being mayor himself or higher up in government, and he would make their lives into an absolute living nightmare of fear, of sadness, of anger, of being thwarted in their own pursuits, because anything that gave them joy, he wanted no part of, and he would do his best to withhold support from them so they couldn't have it. And it was only when the kids got old enough and started being able to earn money and have other options, go away to school, that they escaped it. And yet, there was the wife who was there holding down the fort, so to speak, and wondering, because he had isolated her from all of her funds. Yes, this is what sometimes happens. It took her a longer time to get away. But get away she did, because we worked together and she got more of a sense of her own value again, and she stopped losing herself in the service of a totally dead-ended situation, which really, because he had absolutely no idea what he was doing or how really harmful his behavior could be. He had no determination, no desire to look at his own part in all of this unhappiness whatsoever. When this woman finally realized that, as her sons had before her, she did get away. And again, covert narcissists can be lovable, they can be charming, they can be fun and sweet, and they can be the life of a party, or they can be quiet and not want to be seen too much, be very introverted. As I said before, each person is absolutely unique. Each family is unique in its own dynamics, and yet there are patterns. There are identifiable signs that you are dealing with somebody who has this problem. The thing is, if a person doesn't have the ability to look and reflect enough to see that they, in fact, may be having an issue, a serious issue, then they very often are simply not ready, and they may or may not ever be ready in this lifetime to look and say, maybe I have some responsibility here, perhaps I need help. It's always going to be a pointed finger in your direction, coming from them. So, what to do? If you feel you are in a relationship with a covert narcissist, you need to understand that it's highly unlikely they're going to take responsibility, that they're going to become introspective enough sufficiently to do something about the situation. And you have to understand that if you are really wanting to have a better life, a life where you can honor yourself and honor your desires and live your best ways, then you're going most likely to have to look at what is really next and what else is possible for your life. I hope this has helped. I have great compassion for you. It's very easy to be fooled by these people. They are often very kind and very loving when you first meet them. And as I said, they can be kind and loving and benevolent to so many other people as long as they're not triggered and as long as they think they can get away with behaving this way on the quiet. Scary stuff. You're worth more. You can get past this. There is hope. Never give in and never give up. Until next time, I'm Beverly Banov Brown, wishing you love and wishing you healing and wishing you a situation in your life where you can absolutely celebrate yourself fully and completely for the beautiful soul I know you really are. Bye for now, and many blessings.